What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for being here. I appreciate all the love and support I received over the last few weeks. Today's video, wasn't planning on doing a video on this, but I figured, hey, might as well. Have to paint these cabinets anyway, but I'm going to show you guys how I apply a finish. We're going to be applying the finish to the face frame as well as finishing the inside. This is not pre-finished plywood, so we do need to finish that. And we're also going to be painting the sides of the cabinet. So once we get done with all this, hopefully you'll have a better understanding and you can go out and paint some cabinets as well. If this is something that interests you, stick around and let's get to work.
Alright everybody, let's get this show on the road. Now we will not be painting the cabinet that I did in my build series because that cabinet doesn't get painted. So I'm going to pick out a different cabinet to paint, and this one's going in a laundry room, so both sides will be painted, which is perfect for this video. Now I just need to carry it around my cramped shop and head to my workbench. Now I'm going to be using 150 grit sandpaper. I know most people will say, oh, you need to go to 220. Well, I'm here to tell you that you don't. Not saying it's wrong, you just don't have to. I learned a long time ago that 150 is just fine. And now that we have our sandpaper selected, we can get to sanding, everybody's favorite thing. Don't forget the other side, if you have to paint both sides, of course. If not, one side's good. If you're finishing the inside, make sure you sand it as well. So I guess somewhere along the way I lost the footage of me sanding the actual face frame that goes on the cabinet. So this is another day. I figured I'd go out there and at least sand another face frame so you can see it. With everything sanded, we can move on to finishing the cabinet. Now I'm going to spray Sherwood medium rub lacquer. It's durable, I love it, sprays great out of the Mini Mite 4 Platinum from Fuji using a 1.3 millimeter tip. Now we just need to stir everything up and get ready. So I do use the 3M PPS system, and my cups hold 22 ounces. So I usually like to pour 20 ounces of lacquer and thin it down about 10% with some lacquer thinner. Now we get to put on the last suit you'll ever wear. That was a Men in Black reference, but I really don't know why I put this on so slow, and I decided to stare at the camera very intensely while I do it, not looking where my arms are trying to put this on. Just really didn't make a lot of sense to me, but I guess I just decided to do it. Oh, and the shoulder pop. Okay, I see you, big man. Now, before you start spraying anything, you want to get yourself some tack cloths, and we'll go over the whole inside before we spray it. And you're just wiping away any dust or debris that might be settled on the surface. You don't want that to get caught up in the lacquer. Now when I do spray the lacquer, I tend to spray a pretty heavy coat, and depending on what it looks like, I may spray 2 coats, but usually 1 I'm pretty happy with. Now that we got the gun all dialed in the famous words, let us spray. Now after I have finished applying the lacquer to the inside of the cabinet, we can move on to spraying the primer. Now I like to use Zinsser Ben Shellac Primer. I highly recommend it. It sprays good and it dries super fast, and you can sand between coats usually within about 15 to 20 minutes, so that's a plus. I wanted to mention that I'm still using the Fuji Mini Mic 4 with the 1.3mm tip, and right now I'm just going over the side with compressed air, removing any loose dirt or debris. Now that we have everything set up, we can start spraying. Now I like to keep my pattern between 4 to 6 inches, and I overlap at about 50% on each pass. I also like to keep my gun about 6 to 8 inches from the workpiece, moving up and down, keeping it flat with the workpiece so we're not spraying at any crazy angle. Now, is this necessarily the right way to do it? I don't know, but this is the way I do it, so yeah. Now that we have both of our sides painted, we can move over to the face frame. Now, once again, this is not the face frame that's going on the cabinet, but this gives you the general idea of how I like to do the face frames when I apply primer. First, I like to start in all the little small, hard to reach areas, and I've got my nozzle turned down to where it's pretty much spraying like a little ball. Makes it a little bit easier, don't have a whole bunch of overspray. So I start there and just work around all the hard to reach areas, and then I move on to spraying the flat surfaces. And now that we have our first coat sprayed, we can go ahead and move on to sanding everything down before we apply another coat. Here I'm using a sanding block, and I'm using 220 grit sandpaper, knocking down the raised grain and any imperfections in the primer before we spray another coat. And to keep this video relatively short, I'm not going to show another clip of me spraying the second coat, but I did and I sanded, so yeah, just trust me. For the top coat, I will be applying emerald urethane trim enamel in gloss white. I cannot stress this enough how much I love this paint. It goes on super smooth and cures super hard, so it's extremely durable. Like, I can't even tell you how durable it is. And I'll be using the Graco X5 because this is a thicker paint, and I'll be spraying it with a fine finish low pressure tip. And I highly recommend these tips because they actually reduce the amount of overspray, and they spray with less pressure, therefore it lays down a lot smoother. So if you don't have one, you need to get one. It'll change the way you paint. It paints great. So yeah, next thing you do is just start laying down some paint. And now you're probably wondering why I'm starting below the cabinet, and that's because sometimes you can get a little bit of sputter from the tips. So to keep it from getting on my surface, I just spray a little bit right before I hit the surface, and that usually eliminates any little bit of sputtering or spitting, whatever you want to call it. And I am spraying a lot of cabinets, but this is just to show how I spray the cabinet, so just sit back and enjoy it. And with the first coat applied, we can let it dry. Now usually I let it dry for 4 to 6 hours before I do a second coat. Now I'm not going to show the second coat, but I did apply a second coat. And what do you know? There's a painted face frame. Yeah, I kind of lost that clip, so just bear with me. I apologize. But now we can go ahead and keep moving forward and make sure everything's looking good. The paint turned out great. And now we need to attach the face frame to the cabinet. We'll go ahead and apply glue around the whole perimeter and screw it on using pocket holes that we have in the inside, as you can see here in this clip. And oh, a little tip. These little condiment bottles for glue, they work great. You can get them from Walmart or any little store like that for $1. So take that tip to the bank and cash it. Once everything is lined up and looking good, we can move on to screwing this thing down with some pocket screws. Now I don't like to use clamps here just because I don't want to put any spots or any marks on the paint, so I just use the good old hand clamp, as you can see here, with a little bit of brute force, and never lets me down. So yeah. Now that we have our face frame attached, we ain't done yet. Nah, we gotta measure for the toe kick. I know you guys thought I forgot that, but I ain't gonna leave you hanging. And now that we have our toe kit cut to size, we can go ahead and apply glue to both sides. And yeah, I'm gonna use a clamp here after I just said I don't like using clamps, but I did here, so shoot me.
Well, looky. We got a finished cabinet. It's ready to be installed. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, drop a comment down below. I'll try to see if I can answer it. Until then, I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.